If America sneezes, Ottawa catches a cold, and this week, those shivers feel real. It's Saturday, January 10th, 2026. Quick Ottawa weather. A high near 0 degrees and a low around -3 degrees with snow at times today. A global risk assessment from Eurasia Group says no country stands to feel U.S. political turbulence more than Canada. The report flags a potential political revolution in Washington, driven by Donald Trump's efforts to consolidate power as the world's top risk in 2026. For Canada, the warning is blunt. Geography, trade, and defense ties make us uniquely exposed. Former Foreign Affairs Minister Lloyd Axworthy adds that a more aggressive, transactional U.S. posture could directly affect our national security and geopolitical standing. In Ottawa, that translates into practical worries: border operations, defense collaboration, and whether cross-border supply chains can keep humming if policy shocks hit without warning. Those concerns got louder after Trump announced U.S. forces captured Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro, promising long-term American oversight of the country and its oil revenues. Prime Minister Mark Carney responded that Venezuelans must choose their future independently and democratically, and joined Brazil's President Lula in condemning U.S. military action, citing international law. Meanwhile, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum is scrambling diplomatically after Trump escalated threats to strike cartels inside Mexico, warnings Mexico views as a grave breach of sovereignty. For Canadians, these moves raise questions. What comes next in the hemisphere? What's the knock-on for energy markets, migration, and security cooperation? And what happens to Canadians with family and business in the region? The tension isn't just theoretical. It filters into prices, policy, and public safety. We're also seeing real shifts in Canada's trade picture. October data show imports up 3.4% and exports up 2.1%, pushing the country into a $583 million trade deficit from a small surplus a month earlier. The share of our exports headed to the U.S. fell to 67.3%, its lowest level outside the pandemic since 1997, while exports to non-U.S. markets jumped 15.6%, including Canadian gold to the UK and oil to China. Imports from the U.S. rose 5.3%, the first increase in 4 months, with strong domestic demand for electronics and industrial equipment. Tariffs and a deliberate push to diversify partners are clearly reshaping the map. For Ottawa area manufacturers and logistics firms, this is both a challenge and an opening. More markets to serve, more paperwork to manage, and a bigger premium on resilience. South of the border, there's another signal to watch. Easing interest rates are helping U.S. borrowers, but auto demand hasn't rebounded decisively. Cox Automotive notes lower APRs for new and used vehicles and some strength in housing and jobless claims. Yet consumer spending has posted 5 straight weeks of year-over-year declines, and sentiment is still below last year's levels. If U.S. buyers stay cautious, Canadian exporters of parts and finished goods, think Ontario's auto corridor, may feel it. Ottawa dealers could benefit from lower financing, but if households pull back, rate relief alone won't drive sales through winter. Back at home, Ottawa's gun buyback program is under fire after a Cape Breton pilot recovered just 25 of a targeted 200 firearms. Critics, including the Canadian Taxpayers Federation and the RCMP Union, argue the program is expensive and diverts resources from tackling illegal guns. The federal commitment sits at $742 million, with a new $12.4 million deal in Quebec to support police collection. Public Safety Minister Gary Anandasangari calls it a milestone. The stakes are high for cities like ours. Residents want safer streets and a clear plan that addresses smuggling pipelines while respecting police capacity. Expect more pressure for transparency on costs and for measurable results. On the ice, the Ottawa Senators are fighting battles on and off it. TSN reports growing speculation about management changes amid a season of inconsistent play and swirling rumors. Goaltending remains the hot topic, with veteran James Reimer floated as a potential stabilizer. He's not a long-term franchise solution, but the idea is simple. Get saves now, give skaters confidence, and stop the bleeding while the front office figures out the bigger picture. In a parity-heavy league, a competent stopgap in net can flip close games and quiet the noise fast. Meanwhile, in the OHL, the 67s are in Sault Ste. Marie for Game 2 of the Greyhounds homestand at GFL Memorial Gardens. It's a stern test for a young Ottawa lineup in one of the league's tougher barns. If you're following from home, keep an eye on defensive zone exits and special teams. Those details often decide road games in the Sioux. Live updates are rolling all afternoon. There's brighter news for local athletes on the national stage. Atletico Ottawa's Noah Abatne has been called into the Canadian men's camp in California after a standout season that saw him lead the CPL in successful passes and passing accuracy and garner nominations for Best Defender and Best Canadian U21. On the women's side, 3 Ottawa Charge stars, Brienne Jenner, Emily Clark, and Jocelyn Larocque, plus Ottawa-born netminder Cale Osborne are headed to the 2026 Olympic roster. Jenner and Larocque bring triple medal pedigree. Clark's got 2, and Osborne enters with a sparkling 0.930 save percentage. Ottawa talent, global spotlight. Book it. How are we making sense of the volatility? One answer is smarter tools. The risk community increasingly leans on AI to run scenarios across trade, energy, and security, testing how a tariff tweak, a border slowdown, or a geopolitical shock ripples through jobs and prices. For Ottawa businesses, the takeaway is practical. Map your suppliers, model alternatives, and use predictive analytics to spot weak links before they snap. For policymakers, it's about sharing data with industry so contingency plans aren't guesses. And yes, climate still threads through these stories. Today's snow is a small reminder that winter variability is our norm, but climate change is shifting baselines, thickening some storms while thinning others and stressing infrastructure. As Canada ships more energy and minerals abroad, those climate commitments travel with them. The more we diversify trade, the more you'll be judged on the carbon intensity of what we sell. For a city anchored by public service and tech, Ottawa is well placed to pilot low-carbon logistics and cleaner procurement that can scale nationwide. One more perspective that's stirring debate here. An American academic, now in Canada, warns that the U.S. is drifting toward fascism, citing political violence, military actions abroad, and threats against democratic leaders. You can disagree with his framing, but for Canadians, it's a nudge to take cross-border risks seriously, without panic, and with eyes wide open. Institutions matter. So do allies and supply chains. The better prepared Ottawa is, the steadier we'll be if things get bumpy. Recap: Canada's exposure to U.S. upheaval tops the risk charts. Trade is diversifying, but budgets are tightening. The gun buyback faces hard questions. The Sens need saves and calm. The 67s face a tough test in the Sioux, and Ottawa athletes are wearing the maple leaf with pride. Enjoy the snow, drive safe, and if you're heading to a rink, send us your picks and thoughts on who should start in goal for the Sens. Follow and leave a review to help other Ottawans find the show. Talk tomorrow.